Good evening and welcome to Sporting Jibberish. I'm Jack Luffman.
I'm Stuart.
Again, we're here live at the Radisson Red in Dubai Silicon Oasis, the digital park. We are joined this evening by former rugby union professional player Durant Gerber. Good evening, Durant.
Good evening.
How are training going at the moment after lockdown? We're back up and running here in the UAE?
Slowly getting back
sure.
into it. It's still quite a bit of restrictions, a little bit of touch rugby going on, but not much more than that at the moment.
Okay, so tonight we're going to go through your career and what brings you from South Africa via Italy and then here now in Dubai. So start with you, Stuart.
Yeah, so I'm going to take you all the way back to when you were a wee Durant, about this big, knee high to a grass a bit. I think a lot of our listeners will be familiar with what happens with sport in the UK. So if you're a very good footballer, cricketer, rugby player, you're linked with a club and then you start playing with your school, then you go play with the club and then you get linked with the professional club. How does it work in South Africa?
So clubs are not really massive in South Africa. A lot more focus is put into schools. So a lot of like our PE teachers at school would play club rugby at their clubs, and then they would coach us at school. So I started playing probably about 5 years old probably. And then in South Africa we play contact rugby from under 8. Under 9 you play 15 aside, full pitch, a little bit smaller, about 70 by 40 or whatever, but you played full pitch. Kick a goal after you scored a try and everything. So yeah, and just primary school especially, you had a lot of PE teachers who would still be playing. There was a guy who coached me, Jock Wolford, and he played like SA country districts, and then he coached us at school as well.
Because so primary school, obviously that's a young age.
Yeah.
And then obviously that carries through into secondary school and then beyond.
Yeah. So then you can then play under 13, which is your final year of primary school. You can then play representative for your province. Because South Africa works in provinces, so you've got 14 provinces, and they pick the best teams and they go play in a national tournament. And then going to high school, again, some boys would then play club rugby, say from under 16, 17, but then you play senior club rugby. You won't play, there's no clubs for age grade. So most kids just played at school, and then you'd have a lot of teachers, again, guys who maybe a bit older or still be playing club rugby and coach, or just older guys who've finished, played at a high level, and then come back into teaching, and then they'll coach at the school. Like Jock Bernardi, who's the Exiles first team coach here, he was a teacher in South Africa, so he played professionally. Then after that, or he taught in between playing as well, and then coached at school. So you then get a lot of players who study teaching while they play professional rugby, so that when they stop, it's sort of a secure job back home, and then they can always put back into the game.
So you talk about province, so then obviously you're representing province. Do you then get selected for the national team, or is it just a case of it's like a province competition where it's this region versus that region versus that region, then there's a winner, or is there something else you want to do?
Yeah, so under 13 level you play as a province in a tournament, so you probably play normally 4 games over a week, and they'll seed the teams. So you'll have like the Bulls play the Cheetahs, Southwestern Districts will play EP Kings. And then as you win, and then they'll tailor it so you have sort of like the best 6 teams play each other on day 1 on like the main pitch. Then from under 16, 17 and 18, you get them, they pick national teams out of that whole tournament. So under 13s, you just go, you play, and you basically go home. And 16s, 17s and 18s, you get picked then for the national team, and then you go either on tour, or you play France or South Africa or England or whatever. Yeah.
Cool. So where did Durant get to at that stage, and where?
So
obviously you ended up playing professional rugby.
Yeah.
How did that journey evolve?
I played no representative rugby up until under 19.
Wow.
Yeah. So I played under 13A, 14A, 16B, 16A. Then I played second team for my school. I would say it was a bit of politics, but maybe I just wasn't good enough when I was younger.
Yeah.
Maybe just a late mature.
Yeah.
And you get that with a lot of rugby players. Guys who just develop a little bit later, because it is quite a physical sport. So some people are quicker, bigger, faster, earlier, and other guys just catch up. I always had in my mind I want to play professional rugby. That's like my goal. So finished school, took a year off. I was like, I don't know what I want to study, don't know what I want to do. I know I want to play rugby, that's all I know. So I worked for my parents, and then I played representative SWD under 19s and SWD 7s. And then I went and studied 3 years. So then I studied sports management, played SW at 7s again and SW under 21s, and then amateur, which is when you over 21 then for the Open A grade, and then the next team was the professional team, SW Eagles. But then I met a guy and I got picked to go play in Limpopo, which is about 1,600 kilometers away from where I grew up. So I went there, and then within a year and a half I played Limpopo Sevens, Limpopo Amateurs, Limpopo Country Districts, captained all 3 sides as well, and then I went to Italy.
Perfect.
So that sounds like a journey already.
And just before, so I've in South Africa, and I obviously from a cricketer, Peterson, AB de Villiers, have done all these documentaries, and they both talk about in South Africa how South Africans are really good at all sports. So AB de Villiers, I think, is a bit of a freak, and I think they reckon he could have played international cricket, rugby, hockey, tennis. Were you the same? Did you play all sports, or was it just purely?
Herschel Gibbs was also very good.
I played her against Herschel Gibbs. I dropped him, poor Tim. You remember
that? So I played cricket. So in South Africa, you play winter and summer sports.
Yeah.
So in the summer, I played cricket, and then the winter, I played rugby. And like under 14, I was just like, it's pretty boring standing on the cricket pitch.
Thanks.
So I started surfing. Because we grew up at the so we lived at the beach, so I would then just straight after school go home, sometimes do my homework, sometimes straight go surfing. But yeah, so my summers was surfing, and then the winters was rugby, which was quite nice. So it never interfered. Like even if there were school sports where you have cricket or you choose rugby, which one you go to, I could always, if there was no rugby, I could just go home and go surf. And I grew up at the beach, so I just loved surfing.
Beautiful.
So, for people back home that don't understand cricket positions, not cricket positions, rugby positions, sorry, a bit like myself, I only understand 2 positions, that's because Harry plays them. So, you don't look like a rugby player, you're actually quite pretty in comparison to most rugby players. So, from my reckoning, my understanding, this is my loose terms, is number 9 gets the ball, he passes it to number 10, which is you.
Yeah.
You decide what goes on then, so you're a bit of a playmaker.
Yeah.
So you get rid of the ball before somebody hits you.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Not always.
So is that always the position you played? Is it fly half?
Fly half, yeah.
See, there we go.
That's not bad for a footballer.
So at school I played, so under 9s I played lock, and under 10s I played fullback, which is right at the back. So yeah, I've played mostly 10 and 15 throughout my career. In Italy, I played quite a bit of 12 as well, so inside centre. But just because we want to play a different type of game plan. So people mostly think if you play 12, you're like a crash ball, run hard with the ball, don't really pass, just carry the ball, try and get momentum for the team. But a lot of teams play, like Australia's done it a lot, New Zealand's done it with like Dan Carter and Cruden, where you'll play at 10, at 12 as well, so he's an extra distributor, so that means you can move the ball around the park a lot
2 playmakers.
Yeah. So with fly off, you basically have to think for everybody else on the pitch.
So the Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah,
that's it. So back to you've been to Limpopo, you've done all those captain sides, and then Italy beckons. What was the thinking behind that, without getting, I guess, a bit too political? We all probably know the South African stance sport. Was it to do with that, or was it just purely an opportunity?
It was sort of. So I played SW under 19s. So there's a guy called Zane Kirchner who played for South Africa. Good friend of mine. I know him for a while. And so he played fullback SW under 19s, and I played fly half. And then for a game, like this is stuff I will never forget, but for a game they swapped us around. So he started at 10, I played 15, and then halfway through the game they swapped us back. And then we kept playing like that, and then from there he went straight into a professional contract with another province, and then I just sort of kept going through the motions with the union that I had, and I tried to push to get into the professional setup, and it just didn't happen. So when I then got this chance to go play in another union, I was like, okay, I'm going to take it, I'm going to go and see if I can get to my dream where I want to go. I want to play professionally, and if it is so. My idea was also, so it's the Limpopo Blue Bulls, so it falls under the Bulls. So if you work hard, then maybe you can get through that system. When I then got to Petersburg, or Polokwane as it's called now, the guy was coaching me at the club. He lived in Italy before that, and so he brought Italian friends over to come visit him, and I played with one. And he said to me, "Oh, you're a decent player. If you want to ever come to Italy, let me know." And I was like, "Yeah, I want to go." Yeah. So basically print, because that was in 2006. Yeah, so email just started coming out. It was all very, very slow and stuff. So I basically printed out my CV and I gave it to him, and he took it with. And about 3 months later, I got an email from an agent there and offered me 2 contracts from 2 different clubs. So the one had a bit more money, but then my coach in South Africa at the club, Sean, he went as well. So he went to one club. So then I picked less money, but just to go with somebody that I knew, because it's a different culture, different language. So I was like, I'll play it safe for the first year at least, just to get into it, and then go from there.
Wow. So how long were you? What was it? Well, we'll go with what was the difference between South Africa to Italy? You just mentioned about culture. Must have been a real shock. I was fortunate enough to play, and I told Jack this story. I played football with a group of Arabic guys, and I felt lost. You know, when they were talking to each other, and I just relied on being in a good position, waiting for the ball.
Yeah.
You know, and then that was it. I then just had to try and grasp what was going on. But again, you must be in a similar position where everybody's shouting things in Italian.
Yeah, I had no idea. I used to go to team meetings. So luckily the coach is South African, so but he's been in Italy, so he's fluent in Italian. So he'll speak Italian, and then he'll just like drop 2 or 3 phrases to me, like bang, 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 bang. I was like, okay, got it. Because if rugby squad, if you understand the terms and you understand the game, somebody can just like 2 or 3 phrases, and you know exactly what they want and how they want to do stuff. So again, me jumping into the fly-off position, having to manage the team in a complete different language was nuts. So my second day there, we had our first training session, and then straight away jumping. So I learned to count days of the week, months of the year, and then all the rugby terms like flat, deep, left, right.
Yeah.
So
and all the swear words as well.
Yeah, those are the first ones you get. So I just tried to familiarise myself with the rugby terms that I needed, and that would help me straight away, and then just built it up from there.
And what was rugby like in Italy then? Because, forgive me, I can't remember when they joined the Six Nations, and obviously they were quite a new rugby nation. What was the professional game like in terms of standard and facilities and support, I guess?
So when I moved over, my first 2 years I played second tier, and then I went up to the first tier. So the first tier was very professional. They paid guys a lot of money, and it was full of international players. Guys who played internationally for other teams. So they spent a lot of money. I don't know, that was 2006, they were probably in the Six Nations, I think from 2000 maybe, 2001 I think. So there was a lot of money. So the facilities were pretty good. Then the second tier was a bit of a hit and miss. So you'll get clubs that have really good facilities, and then you have clubs of decent facilities. Like we had a big stadium that said about, say, probably 1,500 people or so.
And what team was that? Sorry?
So that was Frascati. So it's just outside of Rome, about 20 kilometers. So it was pretty cool. Like 20k outside of Rome. It was like one of the oldest cities in the world. So it was off days we'll jump on the train and go into Rome. So it was pretty cool. But the facilities was good. So we had a grass pitch. It was grass until it started raining, basically. It just turned into mud. And then we had like on the top of the stadium behind it, we had a synthetic pitch. So we did most of our training, and then it was a built-in gym into the stadium and stuff as well. So it was pretty good. We had decent accommodation where we lived. We lived at the stadium, like right next to it as well. So just walked to training and stuff. So.
And did you take your wife over with you?
So still dating back then. So we were dating, I think.
Oh, in Rome as well.
Yeah, 9 months. 9 months together, and then I said I'm going abroad. So out of then the 10 months, 9 months I was away, we saw each other for 3 weeks. That was a bit of a tester. But no, it was good. Yeah, so I went over. My focus was solely on rugby, so it was pretty good that I just got to spend that time focusing and just trying to get better at the game and trying to sort of build a future somewhere else and see where it goes.
And so, how long did we stay in? It's about 7, 8 years, was it?
9 years.
9 years.
9 seasons. Yeah.
And obviously, along the way, an Italy A cap, and then did I read that just missed out on the 2011 World Cup squad, was it?
Yeah, so after our season 2011, 2010, 2011, finished the season, had like a year-end function, and like the day before, like they called me, the national team called me and said, they want to pick me for the Italian A side, we'll go play a tournament, or we're going to do a training camp, and then I'll cut the group down from 40 to, I think, 26, and then we'll go to the Churchill Cup in the UK. So it was quite nice when we had our end of year function with the club, and then like I said, I'm going and stuff. So it was pretty nice to go to do that, and then did the training camp, and then off to the Churchill Cup. I had a bit of a demand going into it because I was getting married right in between in the middle of the Churchill Cup. So they basically said no, either you come on tour or you go get married. It's one of the options. So
I bet that went down well.
yeah, the missus was already in South Africa finalising all the wedding stuff. So I called her and said, well, this is what they've told me. And on the one side is, if I go Churchill Cup, play well, get picked for the World Cup side, I qualify as an Italian rugby player, so then getting contracts and stuff is easier because the Italian clubs can only have 4 foreigners in a team.
Yeah.
So it's easy, if you play for the national team, you count as an Italian. So you're a foreigner, but you count as a normal as an Italian rugby player. And so then we made the decision for our future going forward that I'll go to the Churchill Cup.
Yeah.
So we moved the wedding 3 weeks before the wedding. We moved it 2 weeks later.
So is that the angle you went on? If I get this love, we can. It's easier for nationals.
Yeah. They won't have a better life. If I I didn't make the World Cup.
But when you made the wedding, that was
I made the
that's
wedding.
okay.
Yeah.
What's that like? So I was lucky enough to I represented England universities at cricket, and while it's a very sort of low level of representing your country, it was, you know, I still remember it, still, you know, treasure the caps and things like that. What's it like representing not your country of birth, or did it make any difference to you? Was it just a case of it, as you've been in Italy that long, you felt part of it, and it was an international rugby that was...
Yeah, I think that probably the thing that drew me most was playing internationally. So we played against Canada, Russia and Tonga, and those were all 3 of their teams that went to the World Cup, so it was quite nice to play and test yourself against those guys. For me it was just to basically see where you are. So again, I was playing 10 or 12 mostly, and then I got picked at 15 because there's an Italian guy who's also a decent friend of mine, but he's gone through all the academies and everything, so they had to push him. Otherwise they would say, we've spent all this money on players through the academies, it doesn't pay off. So I played out of position, but again, it's just one of those things. Did what I could, and then he ended up going to the World Cup as the 3rd fly-off, and I went home and got married.
It's not the worst thing.
It's a win-win.
If she's watching, it's the best thing ever. But Mike, this is a debate that we've had on the show before, is that I don't agree with the fact that you have to play in that country in order to represent your country. You know, like the English ruling is that you have to play in England in order to then potentially represent. So if Johnny Wilkinson had disappeared off to France and played there, he wasn't eligible to play for England. What's your viewpoint on that? Because in my head, it seems very prehistoric, very, very old school and not with the times.
Yeah, so I think there's different countries have their own rules. Like I know South Africa, I think if you've played 25 tests, you can go abroad and then still
New
play.
Got something similar,
60 caps, I think.
Still play for the, like that's why Faf de Klerk could play at Sale and then go back and play in the World Cup. That's why a few of the guys have now gone to Japan to make money, and then they've played enough tests so they could come back. I think as long as they go to a country where they play competitive rugby week in and week out, they should be eligible to play for their country if they are the best in that position. I know they say like a bit of pride and everything, but then you say, why does a team like Sales Sharks have 8 South Africans in their starting lineup?
Yeah. But my viewpoint is that if you're England and you're thinking about a new World Cup coming up and you're leading up to the World Cup, send your boys to go and play New Zealand. You know, see what's going on with their structure, see what's going on with theirs, see what players that they're particularly good. You can watch games, can't you? But there'd be little things that happen that you would only pick up on if you're training with these guys day to day. You would spot weaknesses. You go, right, well, if I just push him on this side, or I hit him on this part, or coming from this angle, we've got a better chance of dislodging the ball or something. He particularly carries it in this way. They were things that you would pick up on if you trained week in, week out. So why not, as a country, send your players all over the world playing week in, week out, which they do at football and at cricket. There's no limits on where you go and play. People can watch you, record you, and then bring you back in. I think it'd only enhance your opportunities.
Yeah, and I think as well. I mean, like James Haskell spoke about him earlier. Like he went and played at New Zealand for the Highlanders, and then he went back and played at the Wasps, I think, and then he got picked up by England again, which is then he's back in the system. So now they can go, okay, you've spent 2 years down in New Zealand to play with the Highlanders. What is things they focus on? What are the small details? Because he played in Super Rugby. I heard a thing that Otoje and Farrell might be going.
Yeah, because
down
they've
for
been
Super
relegated.
Rugby.
They're going to play.
Yeah,
They're just finishing the Premiership now, aren't they? But they're going to go play.
So
and that's how discussion came about, because Saracens are going to have all these players
top
playing
players.
Division 1.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another debate because I know Larks, who said that he doesn't feel that they should have been penalised because a lot of the players who are on the big money
Yeah.
are actually they're academy players.
Yeah.
So actually, they're not. It's not as if they're bringing in Tom, Dick, and Harry and breaking the wage structure. It's they've put all the money into Fowl or the Tojin, and now sort of got punished for it. But I mean, that's a kind of different debate. But I mean, surely to goodness, it's better off a Tojin and Fowl playing competitive rugby elsewhere than in the top flight than Division 1.
And especially if other teams want to give them a contract. Like there's been Fijians that played in South Africa. So like the Stormers have had Fijians go play there. Who's a centre for Wales that went and played, he's a doctor.
Roberts, Jonathan?
Yes, Jamie Roberts. He played for Stormers in the Super Rugby last year. Which is a good thing. Like if he gets picked up by the Lions again, probably won't. But he's had a season playing in South Africa, so maybe it is a good thing. Like you send to a few of the players, you say, okay, let's try and get you a contract there. You go play. Teams there, if they can afford it, they'll be happy to have good players come to them, which makes their team better. They sell more jerseys, they win games, so it's better for everybody. But then selfishly, you get a bit more info from that team.
Exactly. Yeah. I was gonna jump in. So obviously you've spent this time in Italy and then called back into South Africa.
Yeah. So I think it was 2014. Yeah. So finished the season in Italy. I still had 2 years on my contract in Italy. So summer holiday or summer in Italy, winter in South Africa. So went down, and one of my best mates were getting married. So flew down. Just before we flew down, another player I played with, Emia Ment, he was coaching at the Pumas Currie Cup team in South Africa. And he called me, he said, listen, are you interested to come play Currie Cup? And I'm like, no, not really. So I'm pretty happy in Italy, got 2 more years of my contract. And then he's like, no, please come, come, we've got a friendly game, come play for us, and then just have a go so the other coaches can see you, and then we can maybe offer you something, you stay for the Currie Cup and then go back. And I was like, no, I'm okay. I said, I'm going to Durban for this wedding, that's why we're coming back. Now I'm going to see my parents and stuff. And they kept phoning, and I said, my missus, it's on the way. I said, I'll go down a few days extra, train with them, you come through, I'll play, and then we'll go to the wedding, and then we'll go down. Just be a game for me, basically. So drove down, trained with them for the week. It was really nice. Mobela Stadium in Nelspruit, it was amazing. Played the game, had like a post-match function with the boys. Went to bed, got in the car, drove down to Durban the next morning, and while we were in the car, an agent in South Africa phoned me, and he said, Griquas, who plays Tier 1, like top tier Currie Cup, they heard you played in the game. They want you to come for a trial for a week if you want, and then if they're happy, then they'll sign you for the Currie Cup. And we were driving down, and my missus was just like, what is going on?
So everything was late. You must love weddings.
So we then talked about it. I said, I'll get back to you. So we drove down. It was a 6-7 hour drive, so we spoke about it.
How long did she not speak to you?
No, she spoke to me. And just spoke about it, and then we're like, well, can't lose anything. They'll put us up for the week, give us place to stay and stuff. And I said, and if it's a bit of a detour, if I don't get the contract, then I was 32, 33 then. I was like, then 32. I was like, if I don't get it, then that's fine. Stay a week somewhere else, see Kimberley, go see the big hole, and train and play, and then we'll go down to my dad and we'll go on with our holiday. So finished the wedding. So the Sunday morning, got in the car, drove about 11 hours in the car back to Kimberley.
A lot of thinking time.
Yeah, man. Got there the Sunday night, and then training the Monday morning. So did the whole week. Played the game on the Thursday or Friday afternoon, I think. Then Saturday morning I was going to book out and leave, basically. And then they called me, so I went to go sit with the CEO. And he's like, well, we'll offer you this. There's a week off now, so we'll offer you this contract, and then stay for the 4 months. And yeah, that was it. So I was like, well, I'm going to think about it. I've still got a contract in Italy, so we then got in the car, drove down to my parents, for another 10-hour drive. Yeah, South Africa's massive.
Yeah.
Got there and sort of spent the week, spoke. First thing I did is I phoned the president of the club in Italy, and I just said, listen guys, they've offered me a contract for the Currie Cup. I'll miss pre-season. I'll miss the first two league games, but I'll be there straight after. and he just said, yeah, if you want to do it, 100%, go for it, because then I'll get back, I'm fit, I've been playing and stuff, so it doesn't bother about pre-season. So yeah, then I phoned them and then spent 4 days with my parents and then back in the car. So now I was up to Kimberley, and then we spent 4 months in South Africa.
And how do you get on the Currie Cup?
So we flew down to Durban, played our first game, beat the Sharks in Kings Park. But it was always you fly there and you drive back.
Oh,
It was like a 16-hour bus trip, it's horrible. So won the first game and we lost everything after.
So, although you'd played pro rugby in Italy and been close to Italy A or played Italy A, what was it like? Because actually, that was your dream. You talked about that was your dream, playing professional rugby. And I'm guessing in South Africa.
Yeah, no, 100%.
What was that like? That 4 months must have been unbelievable, despite the results.
Quicker, everything's quicker. Like the first training session I went to, I got home and I just said, every player is just quicker on the pitch. Like the reaction time, the speed at which people run. It's just everything is just that little step. It was very similar to playing for Italy A.
Yeah.
Was playing Test rugby, playing in the Currie Cup. So playing against like second tier nations, which is like Tonga, Russia, like playing in the Currie Cup is similar to that level.
Yeah.
It's just you play with guys who have played for the Springboks, under 21s, under 19s, maybe played Springbok like JP now won the Super Rugby with the Bulls 2 years in a row, I think. So he was playing outside 10 with me. I was playing 10, mostly off the bench, but I was playing. Played 6 games out of the 10 games we played that year. Like my first game, so my big team I support is Western Province in Cape Town. And my first game I came on off the bench with 6 minutes to go against Western Province. And played the game, we scored in the corner at the end, I kicked it over, still lost by a point, but it didn't win the game. But that night I was shattered. Like I was so tired from playing. I said my legs were so full of lactic acid from that 6 minute on the pitch. Just because everything's quicker, faster, your reaction is just so quick. And played against Elton Yankees and those guys, so it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And just the speed.
And the crowds obviously probably a lot different to what you'd experienced.
Yeah. So Kimberley was pretty packed when we played. So say probably 15,000 or so, which is quite nice to play against like your home ground. And then our last game I started was in Ellis Park, and we played against the Lions. We lost, I think, 36-33, so it was a very good game.
Yeah.
But there was probably like 30,000 people at this game, so it was pretty good.
More buzz. So then you go back to Italy and finish your contract.
Italy. Yeah, and then 2 years there, yeah.
And so before we get to the next stage, I'm sure some of the listeners or the viewers out there, some of the players you've played against, some of the names that people might know, and maybe some stories along the way.
Italy or
anywhere, any names that Stu might know.
Johnny Wilkinson.
So I played with a guy called Tito Tebaldi. I don't know if you heard. He plays 9 for Italy. So there's always a thing about him. They said always said he's sfigato, so it's very bad luck. He's a very unlucky guy. So boys would say they'll play PlayStation, he touched the knee, and then at the next training session the guy would blow out his knee and stuff. So they would never say his name, so they called him player X, and they'll never say his number. They always say 5 + 4 because he played 9.
Wow.
So it's one of the boys, because Italians are very superstitious. Very superstitious.
That is weird.
Yeah.
So my one, before you go into any more stories, is Apollo obviously had a nickname, Terminator.
Yeah.
We found that out because of the way he destroyed pretty much the Welsh back line.
Yeah.
What was your nickname, Durant?
I think just do.
Just do.
Just do.
Just do.
Just do. That'll do. Yeah. So your career finishes in Italy, or you finish your contract in Italy. What's the next process?
So I had another year on my contract. So we've gone through some fertility stuff with me and the missus and stuff, and we had another like a false pregnancy basically.
Yeah.
So it lost the baby and stuff, and then we just decided contract's coming to an end. Her brother-in-law was out here working at Foot Republic, and he contacted me. He's like, listen, we're looking for somebody in the gym. This is sort of the salary package and stuff. Is there something you'd be keen on? We just sat down and we've been here 9 years. It's like, yes, I've got 1 more year on the contract, but what happens then? Do I want to go into coaching straight away, or do I want to do something else? I'm not sure. How many years am I going to play still there? This is a job opportunity. Sounds pretty good. We've been here on holiday. We enjoyed it. So we're like, And yeah, within 2 weeks, we packed up 9 years of our life and moved out here.
Wow.
What year was that in?
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
And then you started with Fit Republic, and then did you just then branch out, see what was going on in the rugby world, and then end up at Exiles?
Got out here. My brother-in-law was playing for Exiles. Another guy, Gareth Bacon, I worked with, played for Exiles. So I met them, spoke to them, they're like, oh, you can play at the club. And then I heard Joe Bernardi, who used to play for the province that I grew up in, he was coming out to be the director of rugby and be the first team coach. I met with another club called Dubai Wasps, and like their director of rugby came and spoke to me, and like, you can be a bit of a player coach and this and that. And he was like, first, like, Premiership rugby here and Division 1 rugby is exactly the same. The difference is nothing, it's completely the same. You won't miss anything. And I was like, okay. But then I was sort of already convinced I'm going to go play at Exiles.
Yeah.
So my thought out coming here as well is like, it's social rugby, pay your subs, you play and just have fun.
Yeah.
And I think the standard here was a bit higher than what I expected, which was quite nice to step into a decent, most days decent level of rugby.
Yeah.
I got home after the first session and my missus was like, so how was it? I was like, well, I have two options. So either I'm going to get very frustrated most sessions and games because there's players with limited ability. There's some good players, but there's also weaker players, guys who just started playing rugby or just guys struggling to catch and pass basically. Or I'm just going to embrace the fact that it is social rugby and just make the most and enjoy it. And picked option 2 and did 5 seasons here.
Yeah. So you've held a few different positions at Exiles, and to just talk us through what you've done at Exiles and where you're at now with the club.
So I worked at Fit Republic for a year and a month, and then the guy was a commercial manager at Exiles. He left that next summer after I've been here, so it was 2016. So I spoke to the chairman at the club and I basically applied for the job, and then I got the job as commercial manager for the club. So to run everything off pitch, like work on sponsorships and all those types of things, kit management and kit and all that. So I did that for almost 3 years. So I was still playing and then working for the club, which sometimes is tough if you're trying to get subs out of people, and they're your mates, you hang out with them in most days. And then from there I've moved on, so I've been now a year at Dubai English Speaking College, where I run the rugby development program with the director of rugby.
Awesome. I was gonna throw in about. I've gone completely blank.
Are you still playing now and captain? Is that right at Exiles?
So I played. So there's another guy, Glenn Moore, captained the first 2 years I played, and then I've captained the last 3 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if I'm right in saying you won the Premiership last year, is that right? I believe.
Yeah, we've won it 3 out of the 5 years.
3 out of the 5 years. So.
Won the 7.
And any point of retirement? You think of retirement anytime soon or not, or is it close?
He's been retired for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So I retired from rugby when I moved to Dubai.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago.
So this is just social. I don't know. I said last year was probably my last year. I'm training with the boys now a little bit, but nobody knows when rugby's going to start up again. I've spoken to a lot of people, but not to players. Just like I still feel good. I still running around, still keeping up with the guys. So, and on one side, you probably, as long as you can play the game, why not? Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
I think we're the same in our given sports,
we'll see
not to your level, but
no, yeah, definitely not. On a personal note, but some good news. You mentioned before about fertilities and pregnancy.
Yeah.
Roma's coming up to her first birthday.
No, she's already 13
just
months.
13 months.
Yeah.
So
Got 2 teeth.
Great news. Any bite marks?
Not yet. No. No. So yeah, we've been blessed and we've. It's been good since we moved to Dubai. It's been good. Yeah.
Brilliant. Just one final thing we do ask everybody who we've come on. Obviously, you're heavily involved in junior youth development sport. What would you say to an aspiring rugby player, girl or boy, or even any sports? And what do you think are the main qualities you need to try and make it to the top?
I just think never doubt yourself. Be willing to put the time and effort in. Like I always said, I want to play for professional rugby, and I did what needed to be done. So trained hard, made sure I could catch and pass, make sure I can kick the ball, and just work on yourself. But I always say, some people, coaches, a lot of the time they identify a player at a young age, and then they think, okay, he's going to make it just because of what he has now when he's under 12, 13, 14. If somebody wants to make it, it doesn't matter what people tell you growing up. If you really want to make it and you think that's what you want to do. Just keep pushing, keep going. Because like I said, different people develop at different stages. I develop later than other players. As far as I'm the only player that's still playing rugby in my school year, or the year that finished school that year. And I have been for the last probably 5 years the only guy that still plays the game. Doesn't matter which level, but I'm still enjoying it because I love the game. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much for your time. Don't have a good evening. I think you're going off to do some coaching now.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for listening and watching. We're going to go and get on this bike and see how we get on with that. See you later.
Cheers.